Back on the stage at Live from the Heartland radio show. We just heard from some great, hardworking folks in the healthcare reform field, and I hope people wrote down websites. If you didn't, the IllinoisMaternal.org is where you get to learn about how to volunteer, and CBHConline.org is the coalition. Please do know that this is going to be the issue this summer, and you need to be heard from. And you know more than you think you know about your own health care. That's what we do know. I've got an old good friend, Dave Kraft, sitting up here on the stage. Welcome back, David.
Thank you. Good to be back.
David has for many, many years now, decades, led the Nuclear Energy Information Service, which I think is probably at times a lonely task over these years, right? At times.
Judging from the spam we get, it's not totally lonely, but yeah.
What does that mean? You get...
Well, we get a lot of email, but it doesn't always deal with the issue.
I see. We all get a lot of spam. It's an issue right now, that spam thing. Joining David is Irene Zabytko.
Correct. Hello.
Irene, hello and welcome.
Thank you.
What you're putting together a documentary about Chernobyl.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's talk to you first about that.
Sure.
And how you came to. You're a filmmaker.
Oh.
Obviously.
I'm actually, to tell you the truth, I'm a writer turned filmmaker.
Okay.
And I got into it because, well, first of all, I'll just tell you a little bit about the book and how it led to the film. And the book is called The Sky Unwashed. It's a novel that came out in 2000 and to great acclaim. And it's based on a true story. It's about these old women who return to their irradiated home after the fallout of Chernobyl. They were evacuated a week after Chernobyl happened, which happened actually on April 26, 1986. Nuclear reactor number 4 exploded, causing a tremendous amount of damage and radioactive fallout, 400 times the amount of Hiroshima, just so people will know, to get some idea. And people weren't.
The wind blew around.
The wind blew around,
world.
Absolutely, even to here. I'm sure we're still feeling some effects from here, even.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, these older people returned to the villages. There were a lot of villages around the nuclear power plant of Chernobyl, and a lot of homes and rural life, and nobody really knew what was going on until maybe about a week later, when the government actually took the initiative to evacuate them. But many came back because they had nowhere else to go, and people didn't want to house them because they were afraid they were going to be contaminated with radioactive whatever. So they returned, and I was very interested in that. So I wrote a novel and about these older people that returned.
Now, wait a minute. Had you ever written a novel before?
Well, I've wrote a lot of short stories. I was trying to be a fiction writer, yeah, and up to that point. And I actually did write a novel that's still in a drawer somewhere in my old basement. So yes, I wrote a novel.
I say this because there's a lot of us writers out there that haven't written, and you managed to finish a novel. Had you gone to the Ukraine to visit the site before you started your novel?
No, not at all. No.
Even more amazing. That's so cool. So you were basically long distance, getting the stories, and,
right,
and
making it up. And I grew up in Ukrainian village in Chicago. I'm a Chicago girl.
Close enough.
Right. And my mother's from there, and certainly, so a lot of the nuances and the way the people behave.
Talk
exactly.
Sure.
And so I kind of through osmosis, and just because of where I was brought up in Chicago, even on the west side. It was easy to write about these people.
Sure.
But and of course as a fiction writer, you always ask the question, well, what happens to these people? What if, they return? What happens when other people return? How do they survive their own lives on the most contaminated place on the planet? So I thought it was interesting, and it grew into a novel. It was published in 2000, and many people approached me about doing a movie, feature film, very famous people actually, and it never materialized. Oh yeah, well, my people meet your people, that kind of thing. Never happened. So
I have that same story in my mind from Loretta Smith, who has been trying to make the film that Oliver Stone made, fictionalized, of course, but she's been trying to do the documentary about the guy who was born on the 4th of July. Oh, she's been doing the same thing you have, but
right.
longer than
right.
you have. So
well, the documentary, I love documentary film anyway, and I did want to meet the women I wrote about and to see if I got it right.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, we actually got enough funding mostly from the Ukrainian community in Chicago and other places throughout the United States to fund us to go for a sort of pre-production trip. We got a trailer together. It's on my website. And last year when we returned, we have a film short called Epiphany at Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
And now, thanks to Dave's organization, Nuclear Energy and Information Service, we're doing more fundraising, so we're able to return now back to the zone, hopefully in August, to continue filming the women and what they're doing there and why. And the full-length documentary, we hope for it to be longer than the 10-minute one we've done, hopefully an hour, and a major motion picture. It'll be called Life in the Dead Zone, and if anybody wants to follow our progress, we're at www.lifeinthedeadzone.com.
That's Life in the Dead Zone.
Correct, one word, .com. And we hope to hopefully finish maybe in a year, maybe even, well, I'm going to give it a year. Yeah, it's a long process.
So as part of your documentary, I'm sure you'll be talking to medical professionals and probably nuclear industry professionals
We
as
would
well.
like to if they're going to talk to us. You know, we're having a little trouble there, but it takes a while for them to break down
Trust
and
you.
and even tell the truth. That's the other issue.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a big denial there still about Chernobyl, even so.
Well, this would be a real service
Thank you.
to all of us for you to finish. And so we'll talk more about how people can support the effort. I know you recently had a gathering in the No Exit this past week and showed folks the trailer.
Yeah, and the film short, actually.
The short.
Yes.
And how was the reaction? Were you pleased with people's reaction?
Oh, sure, yeah. They're always amazed that these people even, are there to begin with. And we also got archival photography from the Chernobyl Museum in Kiev. They were letting us use their photographs from the time of the explosion. And when I show this movie or this film short to younger people, they're amazed that there is anything from that time. They've heard of Chernobyl, but they're amazed that there are photographs or anything about Chernobyl from archival footage from that time.
Huh.
So it's an eye-opener for lots of people.
Young people need to be brought up to date.
Sure.
I was actually in the Himalayas when this happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you
way
hear
up
about
high.
it?
Not until I came down. I didn't hear about it for about 3 weeks while I was off and trekking.